So the National League of Women Voters formed over 100 years ago, right as women were getting the right to vote, so that they could become informed voters. We are the upper tip, the 8 counties in the tip of Northeast Tennessee. We have now 69 members from that. Our mission is empowering voters and defending democracy. Our vision is a democracy where every person has the desire, the right, the knowledge, and the competence to participate. It takes all of those. We believe in the power of women and men to create a more perfect democracy. We're fully committed to diversity, equity, and inclusion in principle and in practice. Now, we're a nonpartisan organization. We're not bipartisan. We are nonpartisan. We never support or oppose any candidate or our political party. We want to inform voters about the candidates and the issues so they can make informed choices. We do have some guidelines that we want you to follow for this forum. First, this is not a debate. It's information sharing, and our goal is education, not for one person to best the other. We will not be taking questions from the audience. We have a long list of questions we'll be using. The discussion will follow a very structured format so that every person has a chance to answer some questions first, but some questions last. And we expect civility and respect from both participants and the audience. So with that, enjoy.
Our candidates are seated this way based on a selection of numbers. And as we proceed with the questions, we will start with the candidate closest, move to the candidate furthest away, and then the second question will start second over on down the list. They have a structured amount of time. We have some timekeepers here keeping them within that time as well. So without further ado, we will begin with our opening statements. Each candidate has 30 seconds to provide an opening statement. Are our timekeepers ready? Our candidates ready? And we will begin with Jacob Llewellyn with our first candidate and his opening statement.
Hey, good evening. First, I want to thank the League of Women Voters. I respect everything you do, making sure that voters are informed and ready to vote on election day or at early voting. I want to thank the Science Hill and WJHL, everybody who helped put this on. I've lived in Johnson City for 10 years. I moved here to go to seminary. I worked in ministry and in IT in a variety of fields since I've been here. It's given me a variety of perspective, and it's given me enough time to see how the city has improved and how that cost's been felt on some of the most vulnerable, and I want to make sure that they have a voice at the table.
Hi, I'm Greg Cox, and I also want to thank everybody for being here and just being part of the political process and having interest in it. And quickly, just want to tell you I have the experience and the critical thinking skills to represent our community. Come from generations of Johnson Cityans in my family. Went to engineering school at the University of Tennessee. I've served multiple terms on Johnson City Regional Planning Commission, Historic Zoning Commission, also on the Johnson City Development Authority, and a bunch of nonprofits. So I've been in the area doing a lot of public service.
Thank you all for having me today. I want to thank the League of Women Voters. Also want to thank WJHL, Channel 11, and all of you who took time out of your day to be a part of this debate presentation. My name is Aaron T. Murphy. I'm a husband, I'm a father, and I'm a servant leader of this community. I've been here on and off all throughout my life. My mother went to school here. She was very vested, and as a child, we would come here during the summers. But I'm so glad to be here, and I have much experience and support and determination to help make our community better. Thank you.
I'd like to thank you all for spending your evening here with us. My name is Joseph Coates. I'm born and raised right here in Johnson City. I'm a project manager. I'm working in an engineering firm specializing in industrial automation, and I serve on the city's industrial development board. I'm running for Johnson City Commission because I'd like to see the city do better financial decisions that prioritize our current residents and sets us up for future growth that will retain our culture and way of life.
Hi, good evening. My name is Jay Emberton. I got stationed here 11 years ago as an Army officer. I retired here. My wife and I decided that we are going to roll and die here in Johnson City. I'm a homeowner, a small business owner, an instructor at ETSU, and a member of the Board of Zoning Appeals for Johnson City. One of our kids graduated from right here at Science Hill, 3 graduated from UH. We have deep roots here as my ancestors have been here since the 1790s, and I hope to support the city that supports me.
I'm John Baker. I feel it is important to give back and lift up my community. I served on the Housing and Community Development Advisory Board for the city, co-founded the Pride Community Center, joined the board of Arch, serving as current chair. Johnson City has grown, and the growth is great for some, but others are struggling to make ends meet. These are the neighbors that we need to lift up so that they can be included in the progress of our city.
My name is Joe Wise, and I have the honor of currently serving you on our city commission. And it is a privilege to be here, and I would ask for your support as I seek re-election to continue a practice of reasonable and responsible stewardship of our shared resources. Johnson City has a great future ahead of us, but we face a lot of challenges, and experience matters as we look to the next phase in this city's chapter, next phase in the city's history.
Is this on? My name is Bo Westmoreland. I'm a native Johnson Cityan and Tri-Cityan, basically. Both my parents were born and raised here, and my brother and I were, and my kids. And I'm a general dentist. I've been practicing almost 30 years. I own my own business. I know how to run business. I know how to read data. Also, being in healthcare gives me a wide range of knowledge of a lot of different subjects. I have a lot of leadership due to being in many organizations in college and dental school.
Thank you again for having this forum for us. I want to thank the League of Women Voters, Casey Marler, for doing this with WJHL, Science Hill High School, and my name is Dr. Todd Fowler. I'm a physician, a sports medicine physician. I've been here for 31 years, been the team doctor for Science Hill that whole time, worked with ETSU, Milligan, and Tusculum. And I did not do this because of any ulterior motive. I just want to make Johnson City a better place to live. Thanks.
And with that, we'll begin with the questions. We will start right back here on this side of the table. Each candidate will have 90 seconds to answer each question. We'll go right down the list. I won't introduce the next candidate, simply start as soon as the candidate before you finishes. With that, our first question. Johnson City has experienced significant growth over the past decade, and this growth is expected to continue over the next decade. What strategies would you propose the city adopt in dealing with the growth? What areas related to this growth are you believing are the highest priority in things like housing, educational needs, roads, quality of life, transportation, financial, and city services?
Yeah. So of that list, what I prioritized in my own campaign has been transportation and housing. Right now, Johnson City is facing an acute housing shortage. We have 50% renters, and of that 50%, almost half of them are housing distressed, and 1 in 5 of them are paying almost half or above their income and rent. That's unsustainable for our city, and it's unsustainable for them as individuals. I'd also like to address transportation. If we're going to continue to grow, we need a city that embraces transportation choice. I believe you should be able to get around the city however you want to. It impacts the most vulnerable to require a car to get everywhere, and it also isn't always the safest to get around if you're not in a car. I'd want to prioritize direct investments into those projects. I'd want to pursue concepts, try to find grant money, pursue innovative models like CDFIs, housing trusts, things that other cities are trying to do to address their own housing shortages. I'd like us to make the roads and walkways safer for everyone.
So Johnson City's had about 3/4 of a percentage point of growth the last few years, and it's kind of suddenly jumped up to about 1.5 a year, which is almost double the growth. And so I think, looking at affordable housing is very important. We got to make sure that the housing stays affordable so we don't push out our current owners that can't afford it, or current renters. Some ways to do that is really looking at zoning and how zoning kind of plays out in our area. Where can mixed use opportunities land? There's not a lot of that in our area. Downtown there's a little bit, but that can happen in North Johnson City as well when you're doing commercial developments. You can also include some residential just in some apartment communities that can really make a nice kind of live-work balance. I think looking at roads and planning for kind of long-term roads, the city also has a pretty strong traffic control system that is not used very well. I think there's a $3 million system, and most of the red lights can be controlled. I think making sure that that's manned appropriately and can kind of help move traffic along with some simple things that already exist. Roundabouts can be some other things to kind of help with traffic. And education is what does Science Hill look like? Do we need another high school? And maybe it doesn't look like a vocational school somewhere else, and really focus on that. As things kind of go on, we need to really focus on getting kids back into the vocations, which has a lot to do with growth in our area and having good, smart growth, which isn't just population. It's growth in quality of life, growth in the quality of jobs that we already have here.
I believe that we as a city must prioritize facilitating smart and sustainable economic growth that we as a community are able to manage while providing a quality of life for our current residents, because all of you are important and we should not prioritize those who are coming before you. We believe in you. And so it's also important that we have adequate infrastructure, and that includes roads, sidewalks, bike lanes, schools, housing, water, sewer, police, fire, EMS, parks, rec. This also includes us focusing in on workforce development opportunities, teaching trades, also alternative means to offset construction costs and development costs so that there can be provided housing at a lower cost. I have personally been to Nashville to help advocate for some incentives for developers. It is important that we serve as citizens who are here, while we also finalize and implement a strategic growth plan, which the city is currently finalizing as of now. Thank you.
I think the two things we really need to work on with the city is zoning and code enforcement. They're not exciting, flashy things, but they will affect every resident of Johnson City in the next 10 years. Our code enforcement right now is inefficient at best. If you try to pull permits for anything, get ready for a long wait, a lot of frustration. This adds cost to business, adds cost to our housing, and encourages people just to go around the entire process. At worst, it can be malicious. Take, for example, the Haven of Mercy, where the city used selective code enforcement trying to move a Christian ministry that they didn't want in one area out of that area. I think as a member of the Johnson Industrial Development Board, we've been working with the city trying to rectify these. We've read letters and we've gotten to the point where they're starting the J.C. Builds if elected. I'd like to see us continue that program of J.C. Builds to get equity in that thing. And then as far as with housing, we're getting a lot of high density, low quality housing. I think better public engagement can help solve some of these issues. And then that back to the code enforcement, we've got to really watch what type of housing is being built in here, especially these high density, low quality housing. We need to get those in a place, one, where the infrastructure can handle it, and then two, in a well constructed.
Thank you. Obviously, we all agree on the things that can help mitigate with the growth. I believe that my personal focus and what I would encourage encourage is both focusing on zoning and housing, as well as encouraging and supplementing builders to focus on affordable housing through grants and other means of encouraging affordability. My other focus will be on education. We are making the schools that we have nicer, which is absolutely required. We need to keep up with technology. We need to keep up with classrooms, but we also need to keep up with our quality of our teachers. We need to pay better to bring in better. We need to look at, with more people coming in, do we need more schools? If we're going to build more houses, at some point, we're going to run out of room in the schools that we have, no matter how nice they are. So bringing in better teachers, better quality schools, more schools, so that we can encourage the next generation to want to stay in Johnson City and make it better. I think another thing that will assist with the growth and help Johnson City remain active is encouraging the right kind of businesses to move to Johnson City. I believe that with our natural growth and taking care of our folks, we can get the right kind of businesses here.
I also agree that the cost of housing has gone very high for a number of our people, our citizens in our city, and we do need to address that. I think we've probably grown a little too fast, and we need to slow it down and take a more sustainable approach to the government and to the city. Again, they were talking about codes and zoning. We need to think of this as a city, and in a city you have a high-density urban living. I think it's important that we bring some good paying businesses and jobs to this city. There's many people that are leaving the city, graduates from the ETSU leaving to pursue careers elsewhere because we don't have that opportunity here in Johnson City. They can go across the state line and get $12 an hour here at $7.25. So I think those are things that the City Commission needs to work with the Chamber and try and bring better housing, cheaper housing, affordable housing, and jobs.
I think we really need to think of it in kind of two parts. I think there are the consequences of growth around just a growing population and the change that it can have on our culture and how we incorporate and invite those newcomers into our community. I think that's a part of it. I think the other part of growth is one about infrastructure. And you've heard different people allude to different parts of infrastructure. I'm going to take a turn on this question and say it's not about what I want. It's about what we as a community want. And we as a city right now are in the process of finalizing the Horizon 2045 plan. It's a 20-year growth plan. This is something that has sought input from community events. They've been out at the Meet the Mountain festivals. They've had community meetings at Langston. Each of these things intended to elicit feedback from people about where they want to live and what do they want those places to be like. And so it's super important that we recognize that a growth plan is in process, and a growth plan is in process with input from the people who live here, so that the community we end up with in 5, 10, 15 years reflects the community that we would like it to be. All of those, I think, are things that are going to shape what we become, and we get to choose what that is by choosing the questions and how we answer them. And that's what the growth plan is about. And I appreciate everybody who's participated in it.
Yeah, so as I was mentioning, I like data, so I was doing a little research today, and from 2005 to 2019, Johnson City added approximately 6,000 people, and from 21 till now, we've added 6,200 plus. So the growth is, I mean, no one envisioned Johnson City being #1 place in America to live to, or whatever was on Fox News. You know, there's no way we could have been ready, although I think we've done a great job. This has one problem, though, is it has led to the basic law of supply and demand with housing. And that has driven prices, as we know, through the roof, which is killing a lot of people. Now, The positive side is we've got a lot of tax revenue out of that, probably what I was reading, that most the city's ever had. The downside is that's getting ready to stop, because the influx of people is not coming. So we need to be very careful how we spend our money right there. We need to watch it. I think our school systems need to be evaluated. I don't know that we need to push the panic button and build another school. I don't know. I have to look at, census data. But one other thing is manufacturing is the lowest of all the employment in the area. I believe health services, like Todd and myself, are number one, and manufacturing is dead last. And we have plenty of land, and we have great tax laws in the state that will encourage, like Crown Laboratories, to come. So I think we should recruit more.
On the first part of this question was about how we're going to deal with the growth. And as Commissioner Wise said, that we have a 2045 plan, Horizon 2045 Johnson City, which is planning out how we want to grow, and that was with community input for that. So we're trying to do an aggressive, ahead of time plan on infrastructure where we need that. We've kept up with it fairly well, especially water and sewers ahead, electricity is ahead with what we're doing. Development is also a hard thing, because we've had a hard time getting a good reputation for people building and coming into Johnson City. And I just recently started a mayor's task force on development, where we're getting people together to try and make it easier for people to build here and do that here. We need 2,500 houses and 2,500 different rental properties now. By the time we get those built, who knows how many more we're going to need with people coming here. So we're trying to stay ahead of this. We will keep trying to stay ahead of this. The infrastructure needs and roads are going out. They're planned. The bridge on Knob Creek, we hope it will be done. We're number one on the list, but we may be pushed back with the interstates that are having to be done with the flooding that we had. So we may have to put up with that for a little bit too.
Thank you, candidates. Question 2, we will begin with Greg Cox. Creating a vibrant and safe downtown is an ongoing effort. What are 2 successes and 2 ongoing challenges in creating a safe and vibrant downtown? How should Johnson City proceed?
So, downtown's made a lot of progress in the last few years, but it's still got a long way to go. Some positives are just really renovating historic train stations. Just a few years ago, those things didn't even have roofs and looked completely different. And I was grateful that I got to take a good part in those, along with a lot of other historic preservation. And then also the city just kind of stepping up and really focusing on flood control as a big investment. And they set the tone for what can happen now. That really needed to happen first. So I think those are 2 great positives. But as far as some negatives, we're really having a hard time with the homeless situation. The homeless population has really kind of changed over the last few years. And I think although it needs to be addressed in a loving way that can kind of help them and help people kind of get to where they want to go in life. And everybody has a different outlook on that. And there's a lot of good organizations downtown. And we've got to figure out how to get everybody on the same page, working for the same goal, and holding people accountable to just not breaking the law is kind of a big one. And making sure that we're not a homeless lifestyle city or a homeless destination, but one that can try to help with that. And then just also one of the other negatives is overall just cleanliness, and the business diversity downtown is really not where it needs to be. Part of that is green space. I think with cleanliness, there's still a lot of roads that don't really connect. There's a big, Buffalo Street and the train tracks really divide our downtown. Downtown's not just 2 streets. It's a lot more than that, including Walnut Street, which is kind of growing. And we really need to kind of work on getting more professional businesses downtown as well as restaurants.
Will you please restate your question?
Creating a vibrant and safe downtown is an ongoing effort. What are 2 successes and 2 ongoing challenges in creating a safe and vibrant downtown? How should Johnson City proceed?
Thank you. For 15 years, I've led efforts in combating poverty by way of education, mentoring, and social services, rehousing our homeless neighbors. I've partnered with many organizations downtown to rehouse over 40 families so far. That's a huge success. A success that we have also had when it comes to downtown is finding a better living environment for our Johnsonville residents. They will be in a new establishment off of South Road on a bus line right by Food City. That's a huge success. Another success for downtown is that we have investors who are wanting to take John Sevier and renovate it or turn it back to its original condition. So a lot of people are having ideas and some excitement. That's another huge success about downtown. I have a third one, if I may. A third success is that the city has hired a homeless coordinator who works around the clock tirelessly. Not only just one, but another one's on the way. So those are 3 successes. Challenges that we have is keeping the community informed, because not a lot of you know those things. You don't know how many families we've rehoused. You don't know how much effort and coordination meetings that we're having to help our community to make downtown better. So keeping you informed is a major challenge, but I'm looking forward to doing so.
I'm very encouraged with the amount of new businesses coming into downtown, but it does seem like every other new business downtown is a brewery. We're starting to turn the downtown district into a bar district. You can go on YouTube, watch any city commission meeting where there's beer or liquor license being considered, and it's kind of jovial. It's very much a shall issue. It's a foregone conclusion that they're going to vote unanimously yes. And I think we really need to, as a commission, to start to think how many bars is enough for our town, because we need to be having a downtown district that serves our entire community. So we need to start seeing more family-friendly things going downtown, not just bars and restaurants. We've also seen a lot of investment go into the West Walnut corridor, and there's a lot of promise for what that could be, but it's also been a huge investment, and we're starting to see some scope creep where we're starting to see more and more can be added to this project. I'd like to see us finish what we have and then consider, get some return on that investment, and then consider what else it could be.
Great, thanks very much. So 2 successes for Johnson City. I believe that Johnson City, downtown especially, has unique small businesses, unique festivals that are different from what you get from big cities, but they draw a lot of folks, and it is encouraging people to come to the area and come to the city. I think the other success that I see in downtown Johnson City is our green space. There were a lot of ways to address the flooding that used to put ankle-deep water in the stores in Johnson City, and rather than just building a ditch to run the water away, we put some beautiful parks and some great green spaces that are hosting more festivals and more events. So an absolute success for Johnson City. That led to one of the challenges on my list, driving around in town, finding a parking spot. We have to find better ways to get folks to come here and then not just bail and go find something to do out by the mall because there's nowhere to park and it's difficult getting around through the city. I think our other challenge, and absolutely we can address the success of moving our underhoused out of the worn out John Sevier, but at the same time, we did not move their services. The reason everyone's proud of the fact of putting this new area beside a bus line is because all of our underhoused folks who need services, who need assistance, are going to have to hop on that bus and come back up to the city for their services. Thank you.
When I first moved here, you could go downtown and park anywhere you wanted because there were so few businesses. I'm glad to see that we have started adding businesses downtown, but I think we need to think about diversity of businesses. Someone mentioned we have quite a few restaurants and bars. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you're going to live in an urban setting, you need dry cleaners, you need a grocery store, you need a magazine shop, you need things like this that add to the quality of life that you can walk to rather than having to drive your car to. So I am excited about that, and I'm excited about the Founders Park and everything. I do wish that we would return to having our Blue Plum Festival and that on the street down the main drag. That was a big draw for me when I moved here. We have a parking garage downtown that's not being utilized. We've installed a substation for the police down there to help give that, but we also need to have that as a parking area to alleviate some of the parking problems. We also need to have more buildings being utilized rather than sitting there empty. That does not give you a very good idea or feeling when you go downtown. So I think it's very important that we look for diversity of businesses in the downtown area.
I think to answer the question, I would say one of the successes is absolutely flooding and the management of stormwater. And that wasn't an accident, and that wasn't something that happened overnight. That was something that required difficult votes from commissions that are long gone by the time anybody gets to do a victory lap. See, one of them, and Commissioner Darden, I believe, was a part of that vote. And what happened to do that was the implementation of a stormwater fee that made it possible for us to address what would happen every time it rained, flooding in downtown. And think about 2 weeks ago and the 1 in 500 year weather event that we had. And the one thing in East Tennessee that didn't flood was downtown Johnson City. That's amazing. Because you used to just think about raining and you were knee-deep in water downtown. And so I would count that as a success. I think you heard others already speak to them. We didn't just create a ditch with a chain link fence around it. We created 2 public places that people are coming to, not just from Johnson City, but from around the region, which is factoring into the quality of life. But then on the challenges front, I would acknowledge we are dealing with a problem with our neighbors who are experiencing homelessness, and I hope that would be a different question so we can get into that in more detail. And I think we all recognize parking as a challenge. We don't currently have a parking garage that's unutilized, it's leased to someone, and so they get to choose what's being done with it. But we recognize at the end of that lease, when the John Sevier Center becomes available, we'll have lots of opportunities then. So thank you.
Well, unfortunately, those are basically the things I was going to say. I remember vividly every time it rained, it flooded downtown. So kudos to the people ahead of us that got that problem rectified. One thing I do see downtown, I agree also with Joseph, there's nothing but craft beers. It'd be nice if we could somehow market, advertise, get our name out there, cast a wide net, get other diverse businesses. When I go back to Kingsport, the downtown there is unbelievably clean, and like everything seems to be filled, and it seems to have a good plan. So I think we can do it. We have all the abilities there to do it. Also, good thing on the John Sevier Center. That needs to be addressed. That is a problem. I think we're moving the right way on that. Some negatives that we all keep hearing about are the homeless situation. That is a problem, and we'll all get into that, I suppose. And one thing that we have talked about a lot, my family and I, is the parking issue. It would be great to go down there, but you can't hardly find anywhere to park. And I had some ideas for that, but I don't know if it'll work. But I think if we could get those moving, downtown could boom.
It is a little disadvantage being at the end of the questions when a lot of things have been said, but the 2 successes we can claim are the stormwater not being a culvert. It's a nice park, and then the second park, King Commons, being redone, and instead of tearing down the U-Haul sign, we made it into a Johnson City sign that is an icon for downtown now. The second thing is the police presence downtown. I think is going to help us with the homelessness and having more of a presence, hiring more officers to be down there. The 2 things that are ongoing challenges, again, homelessness is one of those things, and we've got a homelessness task force that's working on it. The 2 people hired to help do that, they've housed at least 40 people in the last year, which is incredible for somebody to come along and do that. And the parking, and there are plans. We've been talking with people about the West Walnut area having a partnership, a private-public partnership to build a parking garage and have a grocery store adjacent on the bottom or something along with that, so we'll have more parking and have a grocery store downtown. So there are plans for things to come that we will keep trying to do.
Jacob?
Yeah, going last, there's been a lot of stuff said. I will mention the obligatory flooding mitigation that we have taken. I've been here long enough to see the impact of that. I also do want to point out a success, because we talk about a safe downtown. Downtown right now feels way safer than it did when I first moved here. I remember my friends inviting me out to Mid-City at 2 in the morning and parking in the gravel pit across the street and being very sketched out. That is not the vibe of downtown now. Now, as far as safety, some things that haven't been mentioned that I have a concern about is the reputation of the JCPD. We did put that substation down there, but the reputation of our police department in recent years has suffered a lot. And we need to do a lot of work to restore that and introduce reforms and accountability there that make people trust that department. I would also like to mention transportation safety. There's still a lot of disconnect downtown as far as making it a safe place for biking and walking and a variety of transportation methods. And I think that can also be a helpful solution for the parking issue, making other methods of transportation more inviting.
Our next question, we will begin with Aaron T. Murphy, and the question is, in a city budget, it is challenging to fund every desired initiative while maintaining a balanced budget. Competing demands arise from areas such as public safety, education, personnel salaries and benefits, social services, and infrastructure. Leaders often face the need to either raise revenue or cut costs and services. How do you prioritize budget allocations among these areas? Are there any specific areas you consider off limits to cuts? Do you propose any changes to revenue generation?
All right. Thank you for the question. I firmly believe that the greatest asset of any organization, business, community, city, what have you, the greatest resource is the people. Without people, you don't have a good community, you don't have a great city, you don't have a great organization. And so you have to take care of people, right? Once being elected to commission, we made it a priority to take better care of staff. We raised the minimum wage from, what was it, 7 and something, 8 or something, to about $14. That's a big deal, taking care of the people. And if you take care of people, the people will take care of you. And so that's something totally off limits when it comes to a budget. Never cut taking care of people out. And so that is something that I firm support in taking care of staff and taking care of the people so that they can create a culture that takes care of you. So that's definitely off limits. Do I propose any changes to revenue generation? I know that we've had tourism come in. The most area that visited us that was close was North Carolina, and there are a lot of roads that are cut off. I don't think tourism is what we need to do in change of revenue generation. We need to invest more in small businesses and helping them get started so that they can help be economic drivers for our community. Thank you.
I'll start with the end of the question. Things that are off limits for cuts are essential city services. You know, our fire, our police, our water, our schools, roads. These things are what your taxes are primarily for. But we've seen over the past few years, there's a lot of nice to haves that have bumped up. We have invested a lot of public funds into public art in our city. I mean, down by City Hall, we paid $30,000 to paint puppy dogs on the walls. The underpass under Rome Street, there was $250,000 for butterflies there. Every intersection has a twisted metal sculpture that we're renting. We have a private foundation for this. We need to be having them pay for this public art. Second, we also need to talk about green initiatives. I mean, we bought F-150 Lightnings for our water department. The sanitation department is looking at doing alternative fuels for our trash trucks. We need to cut back on that. We need to stay with just standard proven technologies at present. And then finally, we need to stop paying people to move here. We pay for remote workers to relocate to this area. We need to stop that.
Honestly, I'm going to agree with my fellows here at the table. My prioritization will absolutely be making sure that we maintain competitive wages for our civil servants, those who are doing our police, our fire, our trash, our city, our teachers, all of those folks who are taking care of the citizens of Johnson City right now are the ones who need to be paid as much as we can afford to do so. If we take care of our citizens who are already here and we make it a great place to live, growth will come naturally. The income will come naturally as long as we're taking care of the people who are already here. Social services, off limits. We barely do enough as it is. We are not ever, while I am in office, going to cut back on social services and taking care of folks. If I was going to do a change, I would say that with the current issue, as we were speaking about, we are cut off from Asheville in North Carolina. Folks who used to come through Johnson City don't stop here because there's no reason for them. They've got to go around. They've got to go up through Virginia. So there are businesses here that are going to begin struggling as tourism and pass-through of Johnson City goes down. If we can, in some way, find out what businesses are going to be affected by this disaster and we can support them, that will be a good change to our budget. Thanks.
I agree with most of what's been said, that we need to make sure that our fire and our police and our teachers, employees for the cities, we need to make sure that they are taken care of. Education is very important as well. I think we just need to be more responsible and more thinking about how we spend extra money. The Walnut Corridor is very nice, but that was a huge chunk of money that went into that. There's not that many businesses along that corridor. Now, hopefully they will come, but I think when we're thinking about the extras here, that we need to be more circumspect and think more thoroughly about funding these things when we have needs elsewhere. We need to make sure that we do take care of our fire and our police. Our fire department is working on a very thin budget, and that's a very important aspect of our community for safety. So I think it's very important that we keep all of those well-funded and think more thoroughly before we start spending for extras.
Just first address the boondoggle of the puppy dogs on the wall. As a point of clarification, that was a 70% cost savings because the alternative to paying to paint the puppy dogs on the wall was to hire a mason to replace the wall that was falling down, and it would have cost 3 times as much as the mural. And so what you see in a public art project there was actually an effort at cost savings. I would similarly say West Walnut Street follows a similar pattern. I would much rather reinvest in existing infrastructure so that we can raise revenue in existing built environments as to tear up a farmer's field and build new stuff there. And so just by way of example, the model mill, before it was renovated, paid roughly $9,000 a year in property tax. And now it generates 10 times that number. And so there aren't a lot of businesses on West Walnut Street. No one is more exhausted by that project and more eager to see it done than I am. But I will tell you, when it is done, it will be transformational. Our financials are in great shape. Our budgets have been balanced every year. Our audits have been clear, and we've been putting fund balance contributions every year back to fund balance, meaning we're spending less than we're taking in. The priority I would put is on core services all the time. And to make that emphasis so that we don't lose our footing. Thank you.
The number one goal or job or responsibility of government is safety of the citizens. That is, without that, you have chaos and breakdown of civilized society. So as far as the questions up here, cutting from police, fire, EMT is not really an option. Also, you cannot let go of basic things like sanitation and water. Those just have to continually be looked at. Another one, because it hits home close for me, is my mom's a retired school teacher, and I think teachers need to be compensated well. They have our children's lives. Both of my sons went through the system. I could not be more amazed and pleased with Science Hill and just how great the experience was. There is good things coming with Walnut Street, yes. I went through the 375-page budget over the last 3 nights for 2025, and it's startling, you know, when you don't do that all the time, when you don't look at that. Like, I'm sure that's not regular reading for everybody, but everyone has their hand out wanting a piece of the pie, and it's pretty astounding to be able to balance it. So credit where it's due. There's a few things I saw in there, one project that I won't name right here, but it was $1 million to redo it, and we really don't need it. But things of that nature, but to answer the main question, we cannot cut the essential services.
You may hear some repetition again being toward the end, but in the 8 years I've been on the commission, we've always had a very conservative budget, and we have not spent everything that we had in that budget and been able to put money back into other funds and in our rainy day fund. We have twice what we're supposed to have by the state in our rainy day fund. I am not planning on increasing taxes. That is not in my repertoire unless something comes up different than what we've had. Our money we bring in comes from grants, from property taxes and sales tax, and our sales tax has continued to go up with more people moving here, more people are buying and doing things, so those are going up. I will never cut essential city services. I'm a physician, safety means a lot to me, so police, fire, EMS, they're going to get what they need, and when you have to pay over $1 million for a fire truck, you have to plan in advance, and those are planned out every few years to replace the ones that we have. Education is something else. Being a physician and going through school and sending my 5 kids through school, it is important and needs to stay that way.
Yeah, there is quite a bit of repetition, so I'll try to touch on some things that maybe haven't been addressed. As far as prioritizing and things that would off limits, I want to encourage everybody, I believe it was Joe Wise that mentioned the 2045, Horizon 2045, everybody fill that out. And everybody engage with that. Because as far as what I would prioritize, things that would be off limits, I would want to prioritize what the citizens want. What as a community we determine is important, and what I want to put off limits, everybody has mentioned core services, I'd want to have off limits. I don't want to cut anything that the community needs or explicitly says that they desire or want. As far as revenue generation, I think we can do a lot to encourage local businesses, trying to keep money from moving out of the city, have it circulate repeatedly around the city, fostering more jobs, fostering more vibrancy and a stronger community. Yeah, check out the Horizon 2045. We need to know what the citizens want. That's how we can prioritize the budget. And I encourage local businesses to increase that tax revenue and keep our money local.
You know, I think just quick is for sure not city services, and really just kind of props to all the previous commissions of Johnson City. We live in an amazing city. We're really lucky what we have. We go to other places of the country, and our brush gets picked up every other week magically. They pick all of our trash up in 2 days. We've really been set up for success. So how do we kind of deal with inflation that's happened recently? I think the biggest thing to do to grow revenue is work on our vacant buildings. You know, Joe Wise stole my thunder on the mill, but that's something I worked on for 2 years just as a real estate broker. And it is almost $100,000 a year tax increase. In 10 years, that's $1 million. If you look at how that bonded with the city and what you can do with that over Walnut Street and what that costs, that's one project that still has a lot of raw land with the infrastructure already in place for more growth there. And every vacant building downtown is underperforming, and their tax revenue can increase drastically with some improvement, maybe some encouragement from the city. Also, the city's got a lot of property in good spots that aren't on the tax rolls at all. Is that something the city can look at selling, doing RFPs and getting that on a tax roll where people are actually paying taxes that way? We have a lot of great infrastructure in Boones Creek and a great tax setup for sales tax to kind of stay in the area. And those projects haven't got off the ground. And we've got fire, police, everything's already there. And how can we get those projects off the ground to grow revenue that way so we don't even have to worry about making cuts?
On to the next question. We'll begin with Joseph Coates. Johnson City currently faces multiple high-profile federal lawsuits. These have cost the city time and money while drawing national media attention and raising concerns for many citizens. What local government issues are raised by these lawsuits? What do you believe are the central concerns for the city commissioner when it comes to these lawsuits?
Well, I think number one issue that they have highlighted is the city has a lack of transparency. It's not intentional, but communication is hard. And in order to have good communication with our residents, we've got to be a little bit more intentional now. With regards to the lawsuits, there were some good steps taken. I know they have put those up, all the documents online now that people can see. But I think there's a brewing distrust of the city that has kind of come in the wake of these.
So you stole my two key words. That's outstanding. So to answer the second part first, the central concerns, I believe, are transparency and communication. Absolutely. No matter what is actually going on, if everyone in the city doesn't know what is going on, they can start thinking that things are going on that are not. So there are perceptions that build when people are not informed. As an Army officer, as a leader in the military, it was very important that everyone beneath me and everyone beside me knew what was going on at all times. When you know, you can make the proper decisions and informing the citizens keeps them knowledgeable. One of the perceived issues, and because I don't know all that is actually going on, is oversight. The perception is that there was a lack of oversight with these city services and those who were affected by or created the perception of the issue to begin with. If that is not an issue, that goes back to transparency and communication. But as a city commissioner, it would be important to me to make sure that we have proper oversight of our services so that these kind of issues don't come up again.
There are over 60 women and multiple children that are still waiting for justice. We need to reestablish fairness, integrity, and perception with our city commissioners. We're facing the 3 federal lawsuits. The city perception here, the city manager considered it to be part of the victims' problems rather than the perpetrators. A special assistant U.S. attorney who through unrelated investigations brought her findings to the police department and management. Her contract was not renewed. The idea that perception might be misunderstood, but I don't believe that the city was very forthcoming with what really happened and what was going on. And I think they do need to take responsibility for what has happened and why we are facing these 3 federal lawsuits.
I want to first say that our first priority is victims of crime. And I want to say that our second priority is bringing perpetrators of those crimes to justice. And that has never been open for discussion or debate. Now, what I will tell you is that when these issues rose to the attention of the commission a number of years ago, as was alluded to by Mr. Baker, who pretty well summarized the allegations of the plaintiff's lawsuits, which will have its day in court, what the commission prioritized through the city manager was an independent, outside, qualified assessment of our city's police department and its practices. That's the Daigle report. We proceeded to put that report on the website so that you all can see it. That creates some legal peril while you're still in open litigation. But transparency was more important than a legal victory. And so what we've done in response to the Daigle report is we've added more than 20 sworn police officers to our police department to allow the size of our force to keep track with our growing population. We created a special victims unit so that we would have investigators specifically skilled and specifically trained to do the very best they can for those victims at the moment they need them most. But what I would encourage everyone to do is recognize that there is a legal process at play, and it's a slow, painful process, but please, let the system work.
I think obviously this Sean Williams thing came out of nowhere. None of us have ever seen anything so horrific around the Tri-Cities. We're not used to that happening here. Just as a citizen, one of the things that always concerned me was, again, I hate to take other people's words, but transparency and perception becomes reality. And there was a lot of confusion about exactly what happened. And I understand there was investigations, and now that it's with federal lawsuits, it's really hard to get information. But overall, I can't say anything better than what Commissioner Wise said. I think they're doing excellent in that regard at the moment.
First, I want to say we have a wonderful police department. These ongoing lawsuits do not let us speak about what's going on. The side of the story of the police, the city manager, and everything else that's going on, we're not even allowed really to speak about. So that has been why you haven't heard the whole story about what's going on. So we'll just have to let this play out. The Daigle report showed some things that we needed to change in our policies that will help things, and the extra police that were brought in have been trained in this. So we're not hopefully going to see anything like this ever in the future again. And I can tell you for sure that not one of the commissioners that are currently on the city commission doesn't want to see this perpetrator punished to the greatest extent of the law.
Yeah, so I read the Daigle report when they first published it. To the commissioner's credit, putting it out there, sure. That report was not great. Actually, saying it was not great is a really generous assessment. The time that it took, just as an example, I believe it was 6 months. I think they planned for that report to take 6 months to put together, and then it was almost double in length. Those numbers may be a little off. Because the evidence lockup was in such poor disarray. Was in such disarray that they couldn't find what they needed to compile the report. There were sweeping declarations of how there was a culture of not listening to women and believing women. I'd really like to see a follow-up report done here in the next couple of years to see how we're doing, to see if things have actually improved. I know that the litigation is used as cover for this, but the Daigle report indicates that there still should have been an internal investigation conducted immediately. And to the best of my knowledge, that still hasn't happened. As far as improving the community's trust in our police department as a result of this, I'd really like to see the community roundtable shift to some kind of alternating schedule. Having it at a fixed time in the morning makes it really difficult for a large percentage of the population to make it out to it.
So, the whole thing is mind-blowing and frustrating, and at the root cause, it was a really, really bad person that lived here. And there's a lot of victims that he hurt, and I think the town hurt, and I think how the current commission honestly addressed it, I think is about as good as it could, and it's really more important how we fix it than looking back at this bad person and what he did. And there's been a lot of changes to the police staff, in my eyes, really immediately. There's been a lot of things that they've addressed as quick as it seems like that the current commission and the current city manager could. And I think it's almost more important to just maintain the transparency now going forward and making sure that there's accountability and that there is a follow-up report. And where do we stand in 2, 3, 4, and 5 years? Because this was a bad person and he needs to be punished. And if there were some other people along the way that did something, that will play out in court, and I think we'll find out more about it, and they need to be held accountable too. But I think more importantly, it's focused on keeping these kind of criminals out of the area. And he focused on vulnerable people downtown, homeless people downtown, anybody that buy drugs from them, and if you can, children, I mean, very much so. And if you can kind of help keep that out of the area, that can keep people like him not around here.
Will you please repeat the question?
Johnson City currently faces multiple high-profile federal lawsuits. These have cost the city time and money while drawing national media attention and raising concerns for many citizens. What local government issues are raised by these lawsuits? What do you believe are the central concerns for a city commissioner when it comes to the lawsuits?
Thank you, Casey. I will say that, as you have heard, the city has received a lawsuit. I want to give honor where honor's due. I want to give thanks where thanks is due. It was our city manager's idea to have an outside entity to audit the city. The first female city manager we have ever had, who's doing a phenomenal job. She leads with transparency. I mean, I can't count how many text messages and emails I get from Kathy Ball as doing her best to keep myself and other commissioners informed. What we found in the Daigle report was disheartening. I have sisters. I have nothing but sisters. I wouldn't want anything to happen to my sister or anybody else's sister or daughter. When the law's broken, there are consequences. And so consequences will take place. I know it's frustrating that the city wants to know, citizens want to know all the details, but the day in court will come and justice will be served. I cannot serve you well unless I'm transparent and I do right by you. Thank you.
This will be our final question. We'll begin with Jay. The Johnson City 2023 strategic plan emphasizes that Johnson City government must remain focused on effective and efficient operations while creating a business and citizen-friendly environment. How would you ensure that the city government operates effectively and efficiently while also being friendly to both businesses and citizens?
Wow. I believe that reviewing where we stand is how we make sure that we stay efficient and effective. If we do not stop and look at metrics, if we don't set standards that are measurable, achievable, and timely, we won't know whether we are efficient or not. Everything that we do as a city, we need to look at and make sure that we are hitting our timelines and our goals. As far as being friendly to both businesses and citizens, that efficiency has to keep the local businesses and the citizens of Johnson City as the core focus. Every time that we make a decision, every time that we make a proposal, we should ask ourselves, who is going to benefit from this and how? It shouldn't be, the first question should not be, what is it going to cost? The first question should always be, who benefits? How are we taking care of the city of Johnson City's people and small businesses with this decision? If we ask ourselves that, and if we can answer that for the people whenever we bring these things up, and again, with the communication and transparency, if we let you know why we are doing these things, then that will keep us accountable and keep us efficient and answerable to you.
I think with Jay, I kind of agree that we just need to take a very calm and effective approach to everything that we do on the City Commission. We need to study and receive facts from everybody that is involved, because that way then we can make a good decision on how we spend our money, how we interact with our businesses, using the Chamber of Commerce, for instance, that has a wonderful record of being able to be business friendly. It's going to take a concerted effort from everybody that we are circumspect in what we do and how that we go about making sure that this city works for everyone, not just the few. It needs to be where we are all part of the solution.
When I first ran, I made a point of saying that I believed as the commission, we had one employee, but we set a tone. And the city has 1,000 employees, roughly speaking, and so the commission has an opportunity to create an atmosphere and a culture that results in the outcomes we desire. And what I said at the time, and what I would say again, and I would say we've had success with, is that we would create an environment where employees are empowered, supported, and accountable. And those three things create a little engine that runs, because culture is what happens when no one is looking. Culture is what happens when 1,000 city employees are off in their various places. And so the things that I would point to by way of connection to this question, as the mayor's spoken to earlier about our JC Build initiative, what we want to do is create an environment where we're building and creating a built environment while not sacrificing life safety in that environment. So we got to balance that tension between making it easy to build, but making it safe when it's done. And so streamlining those operations, another simple example of that, we've changed the way we collect property tax so that the city collects property tax on the same dates and in the same way the county does, so that citizens and taxpayers don't have to decipher which exception to which rule they're dealing with. Ultimately, though, I would say the commission has an opportunity, and it's an opportunity to cultivate and encourage a culture that works for you.
So that question looks really complicated up there, but I can break it down, make it really simple. When you say, how can we make sure that it runs effective and efficient operation? Well, that comes from each individual commissioner. Everybody up here is a highly motivated individual, and part of that is self-pride. You have to be able, if you're entrusted with the vote of the citizens here, to take care of their money, but do your homework. And I didn't thoroughly enjoy reading that 375-page document, but I did it. I had breakfast today, or coffee this morning, with a former commissioner. He was commissioner 10 years, and he was also the mayor. And he told me something that really, really shocked me. And he told me that there were, and I believe him 100%, he said that this was back several years ago, so it affects no one here now, but he said there were people that never studied any of the information and would look at him and say, now what are we voting for? That blows my mind. So I can tell from these people that would not happen. But to answer the second, so that would create the efficiency in the government is, I can't really speak for all of them, but I can speak for myself. I won't be outworked. Now, the second part, being friendly and efficiently to businesses and citizens. Keep their taxes down. I'm gonna steal one of my dad's best lines is happiness is a positive cash flow. And when a business owner has a positive cash flow,
Time.
everything's gonna go fine.
Sorry, Paul.
So to keep us citizen and business friendly, we have over 1,000 employees, that's been said before, but they are excellent employees. We can always be better, but they are the front line dealing with the citizens of Johnson City. One of the things that we've heard that we have a problem with, and I've experienced it too, is our development department and some of the things you go through with that. So that's one of the reasons why I started this mayor's task force for development, to try and make us more user-friendly. I would like them to start with yes to the people coming to them and work out a way of fixing whatever isn't to code or whatever to make it safe, but be able to do the development that they want. I would like them to be saying, it would be my pleasure to the people of the citizens of Johnson City who pay their salaries through your taxes and those. So you mentioned this 350-page, well, 375, all right. Well, we have an average of about 500 pages every 2 weeks of agenda that we read through to decide to vote. So thankfully, I'm a voracious reader and can get through it. My wife hates me because I read fairly fast. So those are things, I read everything, and I make decisions based on what I read and what's good for the citizens of Johnson City to make this a better place to live.
Yeah, I'm going to end up echoing a lot of what has already been said in response to this question. Part of my preparation for this was looking over the budget, but I also looked at the event in 2022, and that was very illuminating. It was very insightful, and I believe it was Commissioner Jenny Brock who mentioned a need to consider the whole system, all the externalities, all the different components. The reality is that you can pull a thread in one place and a whole tapestry can come unraveled. And so just to reinforce what has been said, it's important to measure the impact of decisions, that you are not inadvertently putting up roadblocks, that a positive change here will not have rippling negative effects throughout the rest of the city. And I believe as long as we do our homework, as long as we are insightful, as long as we listen to good, reliable experts who make these plans every day, we can keep a city government that is efficient and effective.
So, government works for the people, and our community elects 5 commissioners to kind of represent the community. And us as a commissioner's job is really to hold the city manager accountable, and then also appoint committee members in other areas of kind of local kind of government. And I think setting the culture is a big solution to a lot of problems. And I think it's a really unique time right now to change culture. We've got a lot of new leaders in different departments in management, public works, police, fire, of course our city manager. And so it's a really unique time to really set a new culture. I'm one of the guys that Todd talks about, but I spend a lot of time in the building department pulling permits, whether it's for myself or for clients, for other people moving here from out of the area. And I've really felt that process and how difficult that can be. And really the culture of no when you walk in the door, and not the culture of, yeah, let's make this work. And if we can't find a way, I understand. Code is code, and we got to meet those requirements. So I think really working on culture is a big answer to that. And also, having a good business-minded person on the commission that knows how to run a business efficiently and engineer things in a lean way to kind of really, there's always ways to make things more efficient. And it's kind of where you want to spend your time and your focus. But I think changing culture is one, and then looking at all the efficiencies.
My vision for Johnson City, Tennessee is to create a community where citizens enjoy a high quality of life and an environment that allows them to grow, thrive, and prosper. I envision a safe and vibrant and family-friendly city for all generations, where local government serves and represents its citizens and businesses by addressing their specific concerns and needs. In order for us to ensure that city government is effective and efficient, is putting the right people in the right seats. Electing those who are called to serve, chosen to serve. Those who are committed to doing the work, to doing whatever it takes to advance this city forward for the greater good of Johnson City. Putting people in the right seat that are not only called and committed, but they're connected to people in all walks of life, connected people who will show up to the meetings, to the ribbon cuttings, to the schools and read books to kids who struggle with reading. That's who we need in office, and that's who I am, and I'm asking for your vote.
If you look at the city's published strategic plan, you'll see a lot about Johnson City becoming a place that will attract people in to enjoy our city, how we can become a shopping and tourist destination. And through that, we will create a bunch of jobs, but that's not exactly citizen-friendly when you have to work 2 or 3 of those low-paying retail jobs in order to make ends meet. What we need to be doing is focusing on industrial growth, building high-paying jobs in our city. We need to be designing and manufacturing things here in Johnson City. In order to do that, we've got to be focusing on our zoning. We've seen a shrinkage in our industrial zone land. We compare that with a very tight industrial real estate market. My business has seen that firsthand. Our engineering firm, we doubled our Johnson City office, and it took us 18 months to find a place. We ended up having to move to Kingsport to be able to find a space big enough to keep growing. And I'm afraid that we're going to see businesses start to be squeezed out of our city that are creating the jobs that our people need. So to have a citizen focusing, we need to be focusing on jobs first, and then the other things will come to.
Thank you, candidates. That will end the question portion of the evening. We will end with closing statements. Each candidate will have 60 seconds. And Jacob, we'll start right back here with you, closest to the podium.
Yeah, I'm Jacob Well. Like I said, I've been in the city 10 years. I've been here long enough to see a lot of the improvements, but I've also been here long enough to see how those improvements haven't been experienced the same by everyone. They've come with a lot of costs for a lot of people. I think a lot of people who don't, despite whatever the good intention of the commissioners may be, don't feel like they're approachable, don't feel like they have a voice, don't feel like they have a seat at the table. And that's what I'm running for. I'm asking for your vote so that I can make sure everybody's got a voice at the table, and everybody's concerns, everybody's needs are heard and met.
Johnson City's commission is a 4-year term, if you just do one, and most of the success that happens in your term isn't ever recognized while you're there. Steve Darden was over here, did instrumental in the Tweetsie Trail, and that is going to be long forgotten, but he gets to be proud of it. And I think serving in our local city government is a way that I want to put back to a city that I love so much, and that I live here with my wife Macy, and make my dad proud and several generations proud. And I think a little about me, I've had multiple hospitality businesses and had hundreds of employees, and really maintained them low turnover by having great culture, positive mindset, and good critical thinking skills. I spend most of my day representing clients in real estate transactions and doing what they want, not what I want. And I listen to them and focus on their needs. And I want to do the same for the city commission, is listen to the community, work on their needs, and use my critical thinking skills to get the best answer. And I'm asking for your vote.
Hi, I'm Aaron T. Murphy. I've answered a call by God to continue leading and serving the city I love the most. I have over 25 years of combined leadership experience in business, nonprofit organizations, local government, and faith community. I pastor a church. I'm a small business owner along with my wife. I lead one of the largest nonprofits in the city, and I've served on this commission for 4 years, 4 successful years. I'm an active leader in all 4 corners of this city. I offer a much-needed diverse perspective and representation that adds significant value to the decision-making and planning for the greater good of Johnson City, Tennessee. As you look at this panel, I offer something different that this city needs. I've proven my ability to build relationships with people in our community, both stakeholders and leaders, provide executive supervision, manage projects, budgets, oversee construction and development. I'm committed to working hard to get the job done and staying informed about matters affecting you at all levels while promoting a transparent, team-oriented, and solution-based culture among constituents. Thank you.
Well, I'd like to thank all of you all in the audience for coming and spending your evening with us, and for those of you at home that have stayed on this live stream for this long. The theme of my campaign is Our City, Our Home, and the ability that we just need to invest in our community and keep our culture and our way of life. The city's going to grow. We can't stop it. We don't want to stop it. We're going to grow. But as we grow, we need to be thinking how can, with this growth, we are building a city that is attractive to us. And then the people that we attract are going to be like us. And they're going to share our values. And that's what I like to see for this city.
So I'd just like to real quick hit a couple of points from my platform in general that came up today. Homelessness does not equal criminal. We can engage and take care of our homeless and our underhoused without arresting them, rounding them up, and pushing them out of our town. Transparency means communication and means making myself available. As a city commissioner, I will make both myself and I will make sure that I encourage the commission as a whole to be more available to you all, not less as time goes on. Caring for our citizens who are already here, all of them, is how we make this place a great place to live, make it attractive, and encourage natural growth that will come with the happy people who already live here. That care includes affordable housing, includes support for small businesses, includes in taking care of our social services. My name is Jay Emberton, and I appreciate your vote on November 5th. Thank you.
The preamble to the United States Constitution contains the phrases establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, promote the general welfare, and blessings of liberty, used to clarify the goals of a more perfect union. These ideals begin with local governments and elected officials. It is a blueprint for the role of government in the lives of residents. As a member of the Johnson City Board of Commission, it will be my goal to support responsible, sustainable growth and work together with you, the citizens, to uphold what every resident relies upon from those who govern, truth, honesty, integrity, and justice. I'm John Baker, and I would appreciate your vote for City Commission.
So many questions we didn't get to answer. The time is limited. I want to thank the League and Casey and everyone who attended. Let me just say, I'm a small business owner. I started a business 20 years ago here in Johnson City with the support of my wife of now 26 years. We have 3 children that have gone through the Johnson City schools or are in the Johnson City schools. And so I'm invested in the community and I'm committed to our shared success. I hope that I have modeled in my work on the commission a responsible and reasonable approach, responsible in a sense of stewardship, being prudent with the shared resources that we're responsible for deploying, and reasonable in terms of listening and understanding the perspectives of people coming before us. Doesn't mean I'm always going to agree, but I am going to work to understand what you're saying. I hope you will consider my experience and my commitment and history and track record as you go to vote on November 5th. And again, I'm Joe Wise, and I'm asking for your vote.
Yes, for anyone that's seen my flyer, my platform is very straightforward. Pro-family, pro-business, pro-constitution, and from here and for here. I have no ulterior motive to doing this other than I love this place. My parents are from here, their parents are from here, my kids stayed here after school, married their high school sweethearts, have a grandson now. I just want to see the city become the best it could be. I promise you I will read the material. If there's a vote to be made, I won't just halfway do it. I will work as hard as anyone ever has. And Bo Westmoreland, general dentist, almost 30 years, run my own business. I do understand how to get the job done. I would appreciate your vote.
I'm a Christian, a husband, a father, a physician, and a politician, not by choice, but by other people helping me to decide to run. My wife, my church, all of the people that I know have encouraged me to keep doing this, to get some other things done that haven't been done, to keep making Johnson City a great place to live. We live in a wonderful part of the country. When you look back at what happened 2 weeks ago with the floods, we opened a donation center and they have to stop taking it because they're full and they can't get it sorted fast enough. That's the kind of people that we live, and we want to continue to be that kind of people. We want to keep our city friendly and not become Asheville. We want to be growing, but be a small town. So I would appreciate your vote for re-election of myself for City Commission. Thank you.
And with that, we conclude. I want to thank all 9 candidates for taking time and being a part of tonight's forum. I'd like to thank our citizens who took time to come to the auditorium here at Science Hill High School to see and hear the platforms of each of our 9 candidates for City Commission. I'd like to thank the folks on WJHL.com who watched the live stream, and of course, our friends at the League of Women Voters for the tireless work that they put in, not into events like this, but year-round, to make sure we as citizens are informed. Don't forget, early voting is already underway. Election Day, less than 3 weeks away. It is on November 5th. Make sure if you haven't already, pick up one of these Vote 411 flyers. It has each of the platforms and thoughts of each of our 9 City Commission candidates. We wish you all the best of luck on Election Day. Thank you all, and have a good night.